again, Guardians, and welcome back to the channel for another Destiny content related video. Before we get into this video though, I wanted to say thank you for 8,000 subscribers, getting up to 8,153 as of right now making this video. And with that, I wanted to make some lore content for Destiny. I know the lore content on the channel has been lacking. I'm very informative. I tell you guys what to do in the game, I help you level up, and I tell you new news about the game, and also show you some interesting things inside of the game as I'm playing. But we don't have any lore content. I really wanted to give you guys something that you wanted. So with that, I'm going to start a lore series and give you some really good lore, in-depth review on certain characters, weapons, and events inside of the game, maybe some backstory inside of the game as well, and where everything all started before we actually became resurrected. So with this, we're going to be learning about some characters today. More preferably, we're going to be learning about Osiris. Now, I know Osiris is a very big topic on the channel as of currently because I made a video yesterday detailing Destiny 2 and the possibility that Osiris is going to be in Destiny 2. So with that though, I wanted to go into the lore that we currently know about Osiris. Now Osiris is a complex individual, and we need to take a step back a few centuries before we can actually talk about Osiris, a period of time and the beginning of the City Age. Osiris was a human male. Now he was resurrected as a warlock and sometime immediately preceding the Battle of the Six Fronts. He was called upon to defend the city during the siege, and became known as a hero to the city due to his heroics in combating the fallen during the Six Fronts. It was during this time, though, that he would meet a legendary exo-titan known as Saint 14, and the two would become very close friends. Following the battle, Saint 14 would call upon Osiris to be appointed as a warlock vanguard. With Saint 14's good word on his side, the vanguard appointed him the position. Unlike the vanguard today though, Osiris was allowed to continue his crusades against the forces of darkness and personally lead strikes, many against his enemies, even after his appointment. During this time, Osiris began to become a melancholy in regards to the establishment of the hierarchy of the tower. He began to question the specifics of the Guardians and their histories before the resurrection to his close working partner, the Speaker. Osiris specifically began to question why Guardians were so obedient to the Traveler and never questioned the orders of the Speaker and the Vanguard. Against the Speaker's wishes, though, the Warlock Vanguard began to draw others to his cause, and many Guardians, including Titans and Hunters, began hunting for truths. Instead of defending our precious last city, the towers became increasingly divided at this point, and both Osiris and the Speaker distrusted each other deeply. Osiris began chasing after Zur and the Answers of the Nine, dabbling in Thanatonautics, and even tracking down the remnants of the Ahem Kara and their lore. Then Osiris left the city in exile. Whether this was on his own accord, or if he was exiled by the order of the Speaker, or a consensus between the tower, is not apparent to us. Either way, he departed from the tower and immediately left for Mercury. Now, centuries later, he has not had any contact with the Vanguard or the Speaker, and most of the tower's leaders consider him dead. The Speaker did send his close friend, Saint 14, on a quest to find the lost warlock, but the Exo-Titan was never heard from again. While Osiris may be gone and Saint 14 in a mystery lost forever, his adherents are not. His teachings and legacy are passed on by a cult or disciples of Osiris, the representative of which is known as Brother Vance in the Reef. Vance himself, well, he's a warlock too, from the tower. He claims he left the city, along with many other brothers and sisters, continues on the teachings of Osiris through the trials and meditation with Guardians that have the patience enough to do so. So, where is Osiris? What are his current goals and aspirations? How does he view us as Guardians? And why do we fight for his name in the trials? So Guardians, I ask the question one more time. Why was Osiris exiled? It's a story that begins with the Speaker. Osiris was actually the apprentice to him. On the bond of the exile it reads, "They who entered the Speaker's chambers as master and apprentice were bitter rivals when they left." Sister Fora, Another Osiris disciple once said, "Was he exiled? Did he leave willingly? Was the parting angry? Peaceful? Is he dead? Alive?" In a word, yes. Well, the speaker himself once reflected on their falling out, and this is what he said. "What drives a warlock to madness? Ghosts choose their suited for war and heroism to be reborn. By nature of circumstance, they go and fight a battle against the darkness, and through this battle, they learn how to use the light. But warlocks by their nature fight a second eternal war. This war to understand a universe of secrets, a world that expects guardians to fight without full knowledge of what they are actually fighting for, and they might hope to achieve. You were a mighty warrior. I watched you at Six Fronts, and even heeded the call of Saint 14 to appoint you Vanguard commander, even when the coordinate claimed to have records proving that you were a Golden Age experiment misincarnated as a human by an inept ghost. Saint 14 assured me you were just a man without much patience for confusing messages. I watched as you grow tired of strike missions and grueling, unproductive sessions with the Cryptarch. That is when I took you under my wing. I saw our future in you, but your curiosity and voraciousness, how much a guardian's personality and memories were true, how much had been fabricated by their ghost. Did the guardian share a particular personality trait, a willingness to yield authority and tendency to do anything asked or promised, or unconcerned, uncertain reward, a blind knight-errant mentality? Had the traveler manufactured all of you as living weapons? I admit, I found your question diversive and disloyal, and I feared you might be capable of breaking our unity when the city's position had grown so tenuous. Why divert attention away from the traveler, our only hope? And then it got worse. Dabbling in Thanatonautics, Ahimkara lore, chasing after the Zur and his tricks of the Nine, launching expeditions into the reef beyond our time of when ships were irreplaceable. Your quest split Guardians along ideological lines. This was your greatest crime. Hunters chose to pursue your visions instead of protecting refugees. Titans assembled teams chasing legendary in the legendary Vault of Glass instead of striking down the fallen. And warlocks turned away from the study of the traveler in favor of your ultimate obsession, learning the exact nature of the darkness. When debate became argument and argument became acrimony, I realized you had already become a cult of personality, attracting guardians who wanted a clear idea of who they were fighting, what they faced, and how they would ultimately win. I don't know where you've gone, but I can no longer send ghosts out to find you. Some come back with tales of your death, or how you went seeking answers from the far reaches of space and time, that you found a way to explore the Vex Gate networks, that you've made a breakthrough after breakthrough as to their origins, theories of guardians that couldn't be simulated, that the traveler might actually be onto a god incubator, that the Vex had diverged into multiple groups in order to secure an end state for every possible configuration of reality. I fear that you've become obsessed with the Vex as much as Tolan was obsessed with the Hive. I've heard your own insane prophecies about pits and the dead Hive kings, and even Crota, which now I cannot deny. I hear stories of Lord Shaxx meeting fire teams of warlocks who have no shadow and never blink, of jump ships slipping into the reef on cold trajectories and meeting no intercept, of questions hidden in matter engrams and answered and decrypted in the distant battlefields. Perhaps you are still out there. If this reaches you, I would very much like to speak with you, to hear your theories in your own words. Perhaps what drives a warlock to madness is truth. The speaker says the ghosts come back with stories of Osiris' death, and of Osiris figuring out secrets of the Vex Gates. Sister Fora said, "Is Osiris dead or alive?" And simply, the answer is yes. Is it possible that the great Osiris died, but somehow through the Vex network is still alive, communicating, standing by Brother Vance? He does speak out like he does speak to Osiris personally, like he is still alive. It's as though Osiris is a state of temporal flux. Now Guardians, something that might surprise you is that Brother Vance is actually blind. If you hang around Vance long enough, he will tell you quite a lot. He will say, "I may be blind, Guardian, but I know you're there. I lost my sight long ago, but there are other senses." The interesting thing about this is that he is blind, and why is he blind? In the cult of Osiris, there are two important documents, the Parables of Allspring and the Fractal Scrolls. The parables themselves are short stories meant to teach moral and spiritual lessons. One thing mentioned in the parables is on a sniper rifle, the Eye of Soul, which means the eye of the sun. The sun took my sight, so the sun became my eyes. Brother Vance has the candles around him for a reason. They help him to concentrate. This may be in relation to the time he spent in exile with Brother Vance, with all the other people, and with Osiris. And yes, I did say they. When Osiris was exiled, he didn't seem to go alone. In the Fractal Scrolls, it does say many followed him when he left, but if not with their feet, then with their hearts. Osiris took his disciples to Mercury, but Brother Vance will tell you none of them were ready for Mercury. What the Vex did to the planet left lasting changes. Legends say that Mercury was once a garden world. Now, the surface baked in the sun's glare is honeycombed with forgotten Vex structures. Executor Hideo himself went there, and this is what he reported. There was no one there when we arrived. We approached peacefully and kept our weapons holstered. The sight that we saw, Executioner Mercury, is a beautiful place, and forbidding. On descent we mapped sprawling patterns of Vex light, an entire metropolis of unknown purpose. The spires strobe with lightning. A mist of burnt rock or some other effluvia blows across the landscape, cut into the circuits of the size of cities. There's an atmosphere. As in all post-traveler records, the Vex have not disposed of it. From the surface of the sun, it's too large and too dim. Perhaps it's the influence of the Vex constructs distorting the image. Perhaps Mercury is in many places at once. We stood for some time staring at the solar fire. I hold myself responsible for the delay. The site we were invited to is clearly Cult of Osiris camp. We found stores of glimmer, equipment, and books. A grounded ship, conventional design, rests unguarded. The architecture is clearly self-evidently Vex, but it was ornamented extremely intensely with fabrics and ritual objects of unknown provenance. I became convinced during the inspection that we were being watched. We ordered our ghosts to stay close. One of our fire team suggested to search the connections of trinary star cultists, but if they exist, we couldn't see them. We inspected the carvings and trinkets left by the Osiris cultists. All of us began to depart for ordinary experience. My Exo teammate described the sense that he was buried beneath an enormous operating mass, locked up in a tiny crevice at the bottom of the labyrinth or mechanism. My awoken teammate felt an ongoing sense of deja vu. Her actions were possessed by an infinite echo, an anticipation of all her choices. She became volatile and erratic. She insisted that we were surrounded. I remember a low ringing sound, a sense of numb filth like gravel rubbed into a wound. I experienced a sense of imminence, as if I was bleeding into the world around me. It would be uncomfortable and profoundly alienating. I perceived all my actions as determined and inevitable. My ghost commented that the traveler had made something of this world, and then the Vex had eaten that something. We gathered the treasure left for us and departed as quickly as we could. This concluded my report. May it bring some advantage to our cause. So, Guardians, it seems that the Vex network leaves you with a sense of perpetual deja vu. This makes complete sense when you think about the Vex and how they travel through time itself. The machines on the planet have left a lasting effect, while of Mercury, Osiris seems to have come up with a need of a special fire team. Brother Vance will tell you, if you seek Osiris, you must begin with the trials. He has left the disciples in locations to search of such a team. This is encrypted messages between two of Osiris's people. My brother, Despite all Shaq's work with the Crucible, we must accept the tower may never be ready to accept the trials. But as many Guardians flock to the reef, we are suddenly presented with not only one opportunity, but two. Go to the reef. Tell Guardians your story. Give passage to any Guardian that requests it. If the tower learns of this, do not fear. If they know of the trials, the tower will not suspect our other ulterior motive, dwelling so close to our margins between light and dark. Your sister, Fora. More of Brother Vance's dialogue leads us into what Osiris truly wanted with a fire team. Why do you make me deal with this Shaxx master? Is it a test? And then he proceeds to ask you, are you the one who faced Crota? Osiris is not looking for a good fire team, but for one that's entered a hive realm and returned victorious. Now see, the cult of Osiris wants something. Whatever it might be, it may be obtained through violence. The trials are a competition built to identify guardians who never lose. Unlike solitary Toland, Osiris left a network of acolytes and admirers who carry on his work. The cult invites only select guardians to the tournament, and in a fire team of 3. The cult wants effortless teamwork, exorbitant amount of momentum, and something else. Consistency perhaps, or maybe it's luck, or fate. Whatever it may be, any fire team that loses 3 matches are immediately ejected from the trials of Osiris. Brother Vance also raises 2 curious questions to me. The first question he asks you is, what does he say about the 9? Now I've always thought that the speaker wanted the 9 to help, and I've always wanted the 9 to return. He talks about them quite a bit if you stand next to him. That the 9 were some kind of major power on the edge of the solar system. Well, on several pieces of trials gear it states, don't you find it strange that the one called the speaker rarely has anything useful to say? Sayings of the disciples. It is odd that the speaker, with his vast knowledge of the traveler, seems to be nothing more than a spiritual leader rather than a practical one. The second question Vance asks is this. Ask yourself, what would you do if the speaker was proven to be a charlatan? So, the speaker being a charlatan, that might be a little bit off the beaten path to prove in this video, but I will say this. The speaker was wrong. Osiris was one of the greatest heroes the Tower has ever known. He was appointed Warlock Vanguard thanks to his best friend Saint 14, which we will definitely have to go over in a later video because he was one of the legendary Exo-Titans. Also, he was proven to be one of the greatest Warlock humans to have ever lived, and during the Battle of the Six Fronts, he helped save the city from the Fallen. Moving on though, he ended up being exiled due to his ideals and wondering whether it's okay to follow the Traveler or not, and whether we should actually be doing these missions, and whether the speaker and the Traveler were wrong. With this, he was exiled out of his own accord, maybe the speaker, maybe even a consensus from the Vanguard, we're not too sure. But I do know this, Osiris was onto something, and Osiris was right about Crota, and since we did kill Crota, the speaker is kind of in awe about Osiris and wants him to return to the tower so he can ask him a couple questions. Is Osiris still alive? That is still up for debate. The question that was answered is yes. According to Brother Vance and several of the disciples of Osiris, Osiris is still alive, but maybe a part of the Vex network. Maybe he's even alive and he's somewhere hiding on Mercury. But when we go to the Mercury lighthouse, we do feel a sense of awe and aspiration looking over at the solar fire. We feel welcomed, but we also feel like we're being watched. That might be Osiris Guardians. But that's all the information for this video, and if you all enjoyed this lore video, please drop a like on it, subscribe for daily Destiny content, and also comment down below whether you want the next lore video to be about Brother Vance, Saint 14, or the speaker. And that is where I'll leave this video off. Thank you all for watching this video, and again, Guardians, I will see you all Starside in the next video.